Hello, guys. Right. This is Ace Perspective, giving his views. I was asked today for my opinion on the second wave of the coronavirus. So, where do I actually start? Now, for all those who remember the various prime ministers we've had in the past, stemming from Margaret Thatcher to Michael Foot, if anybody remembers him, he lasted, I don't know, 2 weeks. And then we've got Boris Johnson. Now, I know lots of people say, "Oh, Boris is doing a great job. The government has done well." I have no idea what they're smoking. Who says that? Boris has recently said that he's expecting a second wave, and the question I was asked is, "Do you think it will be as bad as the first one?" Now, as questions goes, that's pretty stupid. And look at it from this point: how on earth could a second wave be worse than the first one? Think about it. The first time we did absolutely nothing right. We had no PP equipment, we had no testing, and we let anybody fly who could fly. So, on that basis, how could the second wave be worse? We now know what to do. Nobody on this planet doesn't know what social distancing is. We have PP equipment because you can see everybody wearing masks. The government, Boris, in his wisdom, has now decided after the coronavirus peak has passed to now think about quarantine at the airport. And clearly, we can get tests done. So, therefore, how on earth could the second wave be worse than the first one? Having said that, nothing surprises me. Like I said, Boris and the government, and I can only say, how on earth do people think, or how on earth does anyone think they've done a good job? Startles me. We didn't get coronavirus first in England. Other countries got it first. Our death count in itself tells you somebody should have been sacked. Now, if I was at work and I was doing a job and I didn't do the job first and I had the worst figures, I wouldn't really be expected to be employed on Monday morning. But Boris has somehow convinced us that the government has acted and done everything in their power to make sure that we were COVID free. And again, I ask you the same question, which I think is logic. I ask everybody this, to be honest, but there are a lot of stupid people in the UK. Is that look what happens with the industries. Certain industries are not able to open, and others are open freely. We know it's about money. It's always been about money. Cheltenham. I've never seen so much old people in one place. Everybody in Cheltenham should have been self-isolating, should have been shielded. The government allowed Cheltenham to go ahead. How many people were at Cheltenham? Maybe 50,000. But how is that possible? We just let it slide. People seem to forget. No, Boris is doing a great job. The government doing a great job. The only reason why Boris was able to do what he did because there was Jeremy Corbyn in the other corner. And to be honest, I'm pretty much sure that lots of people would rather vote for, I don't know, Roland Rat, Rasta Mouse, than vote for Jeremy Corbyn because he was useless. So therefore, you had basically one option: vote for Boris. I personally would have voted for nobody. But anyway, that's another question. But anyway, what Boris did, Boris decided to, first of all, not attend COVID meetings. Then again, he decided, as I said before and earlier on, he decided not to put a quarantine in place. He didn't buy any PPE equipment, sent agency staff to the care homes, built a hospital quite nicely, built it in a matter of weeks, didn't they? Nightingale Hospital, which remained empty. Again, not to be too harsh, if people are going straight to the grave, then they don't need a hospital. So when somebody says to me, there's 4,000 beds and we didn't need it, well, if you don't catch coronavirus early, then it's going to kill you. So why do you need a hospital? Or maybe it's just me that thinks that way. But the hospital remained empty and people died. So therefore, Boris done a great job. There's certain things that people don't want to mention. As I said, it's all about money. We locked down too early, or too late, should I say, and we opened up too early because the rest of Europe was opening. But again, they were a couple of weeks ahead of the UK, so they were allowed to open. They had a more severe lockdown, but we didn't. The construction industry remained open. Schools remained open up until the government decided, let's close them, but let's open them for key workers. And surprise, surprise, key workers virtually included everybody. You worked in a sweet shop, you're a key worker. I'm not quite sure how all that works out, but we're led to believe that this was a great bit of policy making, and Boris has got it right. So here we are. So when somebody asks me that question, do you think the second wave will be as bad as the first wave? No, I don't. Do I think the economy survived or will survive the coronavirus? I really don't know. I think policies are made purely for financial reasons, and I can understand why now, because we've left it a bit late and we're playing catch up. But no, I think we have enough things in place. Yes, I do see a second wave, but I do think that it won't be as severe. Well, it can't be. It's impossible. I mean, how can it be worse than the first time? We've had 45,000 people plus killed or dead on the basis of coronavirus. Having said that, there are another 10,000 people which has died above the average of last year. I have no idea why. I wonder why. Again, we have our suspicions. It's COVID related, but who knows? I mean, we've heard so many different stories of how the government provides statistics. Currently, Boris is no longer doing his daily update. Thank God for that. It was like watching paint dry. So we're left now to scour the news, guess, and see what happens. As for people flying out, I just want to make one small point to people flying out on holiday. And this is what I really find astonishing. And I say this because obviously I've lived a lot longer than most of you. So I've experienced a lot and seen a lot. We've just had a pandemic and we're not quite sure what's happening. People are desperate to get away. Why? You book your holidays to go abroad and then you moan when the government turns around and says, we're going to have to put a quarantine. What do you expect? Really? Something could happen in the country you've gone to, and they can put restrictions in place. I don't see how anybody who's got any ounce of common sense would not consider that. Now, the next question I want to ask and answer, because I like to do that, I like to answer my own questions, because in this day and age, the only one I get any sense out of is myself, is that if you go abroad and something goes wrong, why do you think that your employers will then have to pay your wages because you're stuck out there? You didn't have to go. I certainly have no intentions of going abroad. Why do you need to? If we were in a world war and you couldn't fly, you wouldn't fly. Boris has often likened it, or should I say Boris's cousin Donald Trump has likened it to a war. And we're fighting a war. We're fighting a pandemic war. Why do you need to fly? And then moan about it if something happens and you can't get back to work. Your employer shouldn't be and isn't obligated to hold your job, because basically things are hard in England. The economy is hard. You need your employees to go back to work. The 1st of August is coming, and people are required to go back to work. And I've heard that phrase before, furlough fever. People are getting paid to sit at home. It's like a paid holiday, and they're enjoying it. Who wouldn't? So how do you get the economy back? They have to go back to work, and they'll make excuses. They'll say that, oh, I'm frightened, it's not safe. But they're at the beaches with the children, you know, partying and enjoying themselves. But unfortunately, they have to go back to work. So therefore, anyone thinking about taking a holiday, I suggest you don't. And if you do, stop moaning if you haven't got a job to go back to. I know it's harsh, but as I said before, just my personal perspective. I know some people feel the same way, but sometimes you hear the radio and nobody wants to tell you the truth. They won't tell you half the decisions, well, 3/4 decisions that's been made has got nothing to do with the health and safety of the British public. It's to do with financial and monetary considerations. And it's about time they've just said that. As I said, my biggest example is Cheltenham. They were locking down industries, yet they couldn't lock down Cheltenham. I've been to Ascot, and you have some young people at Ascot enjoying themselves, but generally you have some old gamblers. Now, they said initially that the elderly should be shielded, so why on earth did they allow Cheltenham to take place? Again, I'll let you decide that. So there you have it. That was basically my perspective on whether the second wave will be worse than the first. Again, in summary, I don't think so. I think that's pretty unlikely. If it did happen, then I think they should sack everybody connected to the government, their families and friends, sack them as well. I know it's impossible to sack them, but you might as well, because clearly the stupidity must run right the way through to everybody. So no, it should be okay. I suggest people use a bit of intelligence and common sense, and keep safe. One last point I have to say, which bugs the daylights out of me. The government would say that on the 15th, to say example, 15th of July, you can now go to the beach. People would be scared of the coronavirus. And I know some people are absolutely scared of coronavirus. Yet at 1 minute past 12 on the 15th, they are no longer scared. Where do they think the coronavirus has gone? Let's consider that. If you're one of those people who are like that, who put your clock on the fact that the government would say it's now safe on a given day. I mean, my best example is the one about exercise. I think it was on the Sunday they said you can exercise from Wednesday, but Monday, Tuesday, it was still unsafe. What was going to happen to the atmosphere which allowed you to exercise? I don't know. But again, I'll let you think about that. So there you have it. I know it's a long answer, but I can't help myself. When I get asked these questions and I think, I'm going to answer this question, I try to give a short answer, but it always ends up a long answer. But there you have it. So if you don't know, now you know. Anyway, until next time, enjoy. If you like, subscribe, and I'll give you another perspective on another issue when the time arises.